For me, cooking is like, I love eating, of course, but the reaction that people give is more validating than anything. I'm looking for somebody to eat the food more than the finished product. And that excitement, when someone says it brings you back home, when I make a video and people say, I haven't seen this dish since my grandma made it, thank you for bringing this back to me, that warms my heart.
Sit back and grab a glass. It's Wine Talks with Paul K.
Hey, welcome to Wine Talks with Paul K. And we are in studio today, about to have a conversation with Ara Zada. Zada or Zada?
Zada.
Ara Zada. Introductions in just a second. You got to listen to Zaya Unan. It's up now. This gentleman came from Iran at 13 years old. The story is, I'm going to say, freaking incredible. So have a listen to that. But not while we're here. We're here to have a conversation with Ara Zada. He's the chef, an entrepreneur, a snowboarder, a bow hunter, and a content creator. And I think the list goes on.
It goes on and on.
Welcome to the show.
There's a lot. Thanks for having me.
I was just like fascinated because I was reading about your history. And when I told my wife that you were coming on the show, she goes, how do you know him? I said, I don't. I just saw him I just saw him across the room at the Armenian basketball thing. And she says, well, I follow him.
Yeah. You know, right. It's hey, a lot of people follow me now.
Yeah,
it's kind
incredible.
of crazy. It's social media's kind of blown up my space the past 3 years, I would say.
You know, it's interesting because we were talking about some of our background and history, and I mean, let's think about it for a second. You grew up in an Armenian family, an Egyptian Armenian family, as I did. And we were just sharing notes on the foods that we ate, which is pretty unique because my wife is Barskai.
Oh, okay. Amazing.
So I had to eat that stuff.
That's great. I love that.
I don't know. I wouldn't call it that.
I don't know. I like the stewy, hearty, like Persian Armenian dishes. Amazing.
But then, now we fast forward all of sort of that culture into social networking.
Exactly.
And it's blowing up. You have great stuff. People follow you, and it's so interesting to me because it becomes the persona of who you are, really.
Exactly. It's social media is a wild space. It's crazy. It's fun. It's exciting. You get to do a lot of things, and some people create a character that they kind of play.
Right.
I'm just myself.
Right.
So I'm the same person. I get this a lot. People see me on the streets. They're like, wait, you're exactly the same as you are in your videos. Like yeah, I'm just filming myself having fun.
I think that's an important part of it, but your whole career has now because of that. Do you feel pressure? Like I feel pressure when I'm got to create content. I was just writing something when you walked in, and I'm like, I'm going to get in front of the camera. And I think your position is the right one. Just be yourself.
There is a lot of pressure. This is the parts that nobody really knows. There's a demand, and I committed 3 years ago. It was 2022, December 16th. There was a reason for all this, but I committed to making a new video every single day. And when I did, everything blew up. And now, fast forward, we're up in the thousands of videos that I've created, new content. Wow. And there's a pressure of like, what am I doing? What am I doing this week? What am I scheduling? What am I putting out? Is it going to be good content? Is it new? Is it creative? Is it exciting? And so there is that pressure, and there's a demand for it. People want it.
So do you think it's accurate? Like, you read about how to do this, and I've done a long time. I have 1,500 videos on YouTube. I was filming tasting notes a long time ago, but wine is a very narrow subject. But I always feel like, are they going to be interested in this? Is it trendy? Should I follow the trends? Shouldn't I follow the trends? Should I just, those things weigh into it, but most of the pundits just say, just do it.
Yeah. So with social media, I tell people a lot of the times, like, a lot of people get wrapped up in like, is it going to be good? I need to make it perfect. I need to make it a certain way. Just doing it is half the battle.
Right.
But following trends is key. Staying on brand is another key. Like for me, for example, I eat a lot of sushi. Mm-hmm. But if I do
with
fish,
basmati roe on it,
that's the thing. If I do like fish dishes, they don't do as well in the videos. If I do raw fish, it doesn't do as well. So like you kind of have to stay on brand and in your space.
That's so interesting.
But I'm French trained.
Right.
I did recipe and product development for a very long time. So I can literally cook anything.
Wow.
And I'm not like in a space, but through my social media platform, I am in a certain space. I like to open up a little bit and then you kind of come back to where you need to be. But my favorite thing to do is fusion food. So I like to mix cultures and ingredients. And I think that's how you evolve in anything. It's evolving food in its finest form. If you mixed different colors of paint to create new colors, you can have magical artwork.
Right.
If you just stuck with red, yellow, and blue forever, art would be stagnant. So this is kind of like the same space for me.
And you went to Cordon Bleu, the one in Pasadena?
I did. Like Cordon Bleu.
Yeah, bleu. Well, I mean, you know, my daughter is French trained boulangère. She went to Paris.
Amazing.
Looked there, and she ended up at the ICA in New York for savory, and great career. It's a very challenging career and a very competitive career. Did you go into Cordon Bleu thinking you're going to be a TV chef? Or your dream was to be a TV chef?
My dream has always been to be in front of the camera. That's just, even when I was a little kid, I've always liked it.
We have 3 cameras here.
Hey, that's what I like. That's why I'm here. So I've always liked it. I've always enjoyed it. I've thrived in that space.
Yeah.
When I originally went to culinary school, I left the family business, which was printing. And
Crazy.
I was like, I'm going to culinary school. My grandpa's like, no, you'll never make a career. Cooks don't make money and all this stuff. But I realized I was going home every day from the family business to cook, to kind of decompress. And that was like my outlet. And I was like, if I'm doing this to for fun, why not make money? When I went to culinary school, I had a dream of opening up a restaurant. It was a bar and grill.
I love it.
And that
I still do.
That dream quickly changed because I realized that all the work it would take to open a restaurant and maintain a restaurant and be in the restaurant, it wouldn't allow me to have family life. And for me, that was super important. And I wanted to be able to hang out with my kids as they grew up. And that was already in the back of my head. So I found different avenues. I did a bunch of restaurant stuff coming out. Then I got into food TV and I got into food styling.
Wow.
So kind of back of the house stuff. Yeah. And I remember I worked my way through that space pretty well. And then I became a lead food stylist on some big talk shows in LA.
Do you think that was, you have to have a break in this industry, like you in the movies or anything else as media, like you get that break that you get a chance to do that, or is it just hard work and persevere?
It was a lot of that kind of came from the people,
right?
And I made some connections pretty early on. At a culinary school, I interned with Jamie Oliver.
Oh, well, that's a pretty good name.
I did really well in culinary school. I got straight A's. Not like that matters at all. When you come out, nobody goes, "What were your grades in culinary school?" Nobody cares. Yeah, but I got straight A's, and I was always in school. I was always like a B student.
Yeah.
I was always good at remembering things, but I wasn't good at applying homework. So I'd get A's on all the tests, but I'd never do classwork or homework, sorry. Yeah. And so I was always a B student.
Yeah.
When I went to culinary school, I was an A student because I was doing everything and I was really into it. So
applying it,
and I was good at what I did, and I got an internship with Jamie Oliver. After that, he asked me to teach on he had a mobile cooking truck. And he asked me to teach on that truck.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. So and then from that space, I met a bunch of his food stylists. We worked on a TV show. It just
worked.
There was a lot of things happening.
It's interesting you said decompress. Let's go back to that for a second.
Yeah.
My mom was an incredible cook. We were talking about that since we both grew up in a similar household, making, like bamia and fool. We loved fool. Like my friends in Palos Verdes, surf town.
Yeah.
We're like, what the hell is that smell?
Yes. Yes.
And I go, but you got to taste this.
Palos Verdes.
So much we had similar backgrounds. And my daughter, who loved my mother and loved being in the kitchen with her, but she had the exact same response you did, which was when I got home from work and she was cooking or baking, I knew she had a tough day at school.
Amazing.
Either at softball or whatever she was doing, because that was the way she shed everything.
There's
And I love it too. I
Some
don't know what
people
it
just
is.
do that.
Yeah.
You know, and some people hate it.
Yes. Well, we like my daughter lives, our older daughter, her house did not burn in the fire, but she's living with us. And I will refuse to let them call DoorDash and all that stuff. And we cook every night.
That's the way to do it.
So I'm very happy to have these rubs
There we go.
because I get this, and I just smelled a few of them. But they are like smelling my home.
It's
Pretty crazy.
it brings you back.
Yeah.
You know, you open some of these things and it brings you back.
So we went to, when my daughter was trying to figure out what to do with savory, we went to Napa, and I go there all the time. We're going there tomorrow.
Amazing.
And we went to Greystone, we went to ICA, and we got this lecture, and I want to get your opinion on this. The guy, first of all, he made some stupid dish for the potential students of this thing. I don't know what it was, like a tomato wrap cheese thing. It was really dumb. But the pitch he was giving was more like skip college, go to school, and he wasn't saying you're going to become a TV star, but certainly it was in the background of everybody's mind that this potentially could be what we're doing. And you know, that's the furthest from the truth it could be, because once you go into the workforce, and you're on the line, you know, for 8 hours,
it's different.
It's different.
It's different. There's a lot of advantages, you know, to going to college, to going to culinary school, to doing all of these things. You know, being on the line for 8 hours teaches you a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Grit. But it's different than trying to be in front of the camera and being a TV star.
Yeah, right. No, it's two different things completely.
Completely different things. And it's a different animal, different beast. Both have their perks, you know, but it just takes, I think it takes a certain kind of person to do both of them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's really hard to do. I mean, my daughter had her ambition to be a cook and a baker, primarily.
A baker.
So
that's the thing I can bake, but it's not my favorite thing to do.
Well, she sought out, went to Isanjo outside of Lyon, and she cooked in Paris for Alain Decazes, came to LA, fixed a bunch of bread programs for people, worked at Superba, and then went to New York and worked at Lincoln.
Amazing.
And then started with Jonathan Beno.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And then they earned a star, and then COVID hit 6 years later, and that was the end of it. And then somebody stole the star off the building.
No way.
But all that to say, this is a hard, tough road, and you chose that road to do, and you're successful at it, and you have to continue to manage the success.
Yeah.
You have to work it.
Yeah. So like with anything, and I tell my kids this all the time, it takes work. Yeah. None of this stuff will fall on your lap. None of this stuff is easy. No matter what it is you want to do, you have to put in the time. You have to put in the hours. With social media now, I basically wake up at 6 a.m. And I don't finish doing what I'm doing usually till around 10.
Wow.
I do everything myself. And
yeah, I know what that feels like.
So start to finish, editing everything I do. We're at a point now, some of my longer format stuff, which we're working on, is my YouTube stuff. I now have an awesome cameraman, and he helps me with that.
Yes.
Because my short format stuff is so time consuming. So it is work, and you got to make it also seem like it's not that much work. That's what makes it fun.
Yes. So I enjoy it. I love doing this.
It's fun.
And it just takes time. I was just writing a script. I plan on making some content today. I'm not as prolific as you are, but I did find some help in Serbia.
Serbia.
Yes.
Oh, some editing.
Yes.
I love that.
It's unbelievable. I'll be happy to share the name with you because he does a really good job.
Yeah.
And it's very reasonable.
Okay. I love
it's
that.
very quick.
I love that.
So what happened was I was in Italy doing a podcast. They put me in a glass room.
Okay.
Like the worst acoustics in the world, right?
Yeah.
And then they turned the air conditioner on.
Okay, so it's loud and the voice is bouncing all over the place.
And I wasn't using these mics because they're too big to carry to Italy. So I have my little Rode band mics, which pick up everything as it's supposed to. So I gave it to 5 audio engineers through Upwork, and this guy's came back like we were in studio.
No way.
Yeah, and he's done about 200 episodes for me.
No way.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
That's awesome.
So what is that daily routine now? I mean, exactly. Like, so creating content, doing recipes still?
Yeah. So 6 a.m. I kind of wake up and I start my posting. So I post on IG, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube.
Wow.
You fill in captions on all of them. You have to, I fill in the auto captions from each platform. So it takes time because the platforms like using their own captions.
Right, for sure, yeah.
So there's that portion. Then we kind of kick into what are we cooking today? Shopping almost daily and coming, shooting. I try to shoot, if I can, 2 to 3 so that I can leave the other days to editing. But usually it doesn't work out that way.
No.
So
best laid plans.
yeah, like I like to get a little bit ahead. And then the biggest thing is I try to create enough content so at the very least, the weekends when my kids are home, I'm not scrambling to create or edit. So I like to try and take Saturday and Sunday off from the filming and editing portion. So
you've got to schedule it in your head anyway, at least what you want to get done. And
it's mapped out. And then now there's, and as I keep growing, there's various things that pop up, like today. So podcasts, things like that, appearances, events, live cooking demos that I do. So all those things plug in, kind of take away from a whole day of work and production. So you have to do, like yesterday, I shot 3 videos. Today, I'm not going to be able to shoot, but I have things in the pipeline. Wednesday, I'm out all day shooting a YouTube video.
Right.
So I have to look forward or kind of think ahead. Thursday, I'll have some time after the morning to edit and shoot so that I have things for the weekend, and it just goes again.
That's going to Napa like we are tomorrow, I have to worry about what I'm going to publish, but I do get 4 or 5 episodes in the can.
That's it.
And then you want to keep that
you
can
want that
full,
can full,
but it's not that easy. To do.
So if you can keep the can full, like right now, I have 3 in the can, and 1 edited. So I'm ready to go, and then I need to edit those 3, and then I can move forward. But I like to, in an ideal situation, I would literally have 3 fully edited, ready to go.
Wow.
And those are already scheduled in my head when I'm posting. But it always gets mixed up. And then, towards the end of the night, you still have to engage in each platform a little bit.
Right. Sure. That's part of the deal.
Yeah. So I try to tell my kids this now, to stop consuming, to start creating. But you have to engage in a certain way when you are creating. So like you can't just leave the platform dead. You can't post and ghost is what they call it. You can't just you have to post. Now you have to engage a certain amount in each content. So I have colleagues or associates, if you will, friends that I've collabed with, and people that are all content creators, and they pop up on my feed, and then we like and comment and share on each other's stuff so that everyone kind of grows together. And
the algorithm likes that.
You're a slave to this magical algorithm, which is super fun.
Which nobody knows.
But it's awesome.
My niece started a salad dressing line.
Amazing.
Armenian influenced.
Okay.
And she used to work here. Okay. And she's very prolific socially. And she's now relaunching it. She's changed some of the recipes. But one of her, I'm not going to say disappointments, but one of her understandings, because she thought you could become an influencer, with relatively little work. And now she's like, she did 25 salads in 25 days kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's,
that's a lot. What's the salad dressing called?
Love.
I know I have that dressing. She sent them to me.
So she's
I was like, I don't want to say it if it's not the same one.
She reformulated it. So she's got new products.
She had sent some to me.
Let me ask you about this. I'm a huge devotee of the 80s when Joachim Splichat was here, and Ken Frank and Jonathan Waxman and Michael McCarty. All these guys were creating what is today's food culture, and that, of course, is evolving.
Yes.
Is that part of A, inspiration, or B, sort of understanding the history of how this stuff came about and what it might bring, or not? It's not part of it.
Not really. Not for me. I know a bit about it, but like that didn't lead me into this path. I would say the love for food, my grandparents, my grandma, my mom kind of inspired that portion of it.
Sure.
The food, celebrity chef action, that kind of space was probably most inspired, I would say, by Emerald's show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when I was a kid ish, I guess my mom would watch it all the time. She loved it. It was always on. So I was like, this is kind of awesome. This dude is just cooking. He's got a full audience and he's just cooking, having a great time.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to actually work a TNT show with Emerald on
Wow.
camera.
You
So
sell
I met
oven?
him.
You sell a convection oven for him? Okay.
I worked with him.
like-
So we did eight episodes on TNT
Wow.
on this show called On the Menu. And I hung out with him. He's a super nice guy.
Wow, that's great.
We were cooking backstage together, doing family meal, and it was super cool.
That's really
He's a
cool.
very nice guy.
That's really cool. You were talking about something that just gave me a thought that I thought was so interesting. But the history part of this food part, which I think is really interesting. I think it's really important that happened in America, because now it set the platform or the stage for creativity in the food.
Yeah.
It wasn't really around before that.
You know, it's interesting to see the evolution of food, how it's gotten bigger, how celebrity chefs are now the rock stars. Like
Yeah.
if you go to Vegas and you're driving down, there's billboards of celebrity chefs
Wow.
all over the hotels.
Yeah.
You know, where, you know, in the 80s and 90s, it was all rock stars, right? Like music.
Right. That's right. That's right.
It's crazy now if you look around.
It's never the wine guy. Why is that?
It's not
Why don't I go?
because you guys are just chilling on a couch having some cheese.
You know, Nancy Silverton's coming on the show soon.
Amazing.
And her boyfriend is Armenian.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're mates. They've been forever. His name was Michael Krikorian.
That's awesome.
He was the LA Times writer for the gang beat writer, actually.
Oh,
really interesting guy.
No way.
Yeah, so I was bugging him to get her on the show. But there's another guy. He was on the show recently too. A crazy story. He's a critic, a food critic, basically.
Okay.
He's from Lebanon.
Okay.
Raya. I have to look up his name. But he was a dentist.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
I
talking
know
about?
what you're talking about. No onions, no garlic. He
Yeah,
goes
that's
by.
it. Right.
Yeah.
So this guy was a dentist, and he was watching TV with his patients as he's pulling their teeth, and it was the Bourdain show.
Yeah.
And he thought I could do that.
He's killing it right now. He's killing it on YouTube.
That's unbelievable. And he dumps his whole career as a dentist and goes
And
into
he's
this.
just going around reviewing food.
And you were talking about equipment when he walked in. He sat where you're sitting, and he certainly appreciated the microphones, but took his new Rode Wireless Pro, they're called.
Yeah, I have those.
Phenomenal.
I have
He
those.
just clipped it here.
And he just recorded
And
the whole
brought
thing.
2 iPhones.
Amazing.
That was the whole show. And here I am lugging all this equipment across the world, trying to shoot something that.
You know, it's when it comes to equipment, I have some really nice cameras, but 95% of the time,
It's just the iPhone. And they're going to get better.
that's another thing, but I always buy the newest and latest and
Yeah.
greatest. So I'm always forking over money, but that's the livelihood. I mean, the camera quality is so high that you don't for what I do.
Yeah, you don't need it.
necessarily need much.
Oh, great. I don't need my 6K Black Magic.
I'll tell you what, when I shoot with
LED lighting.
the lighting is important. So I have full light setup.
Oh, yeah, I do.
There's full light setup. There's different tripods everywhere. The camera moves constantly. Mic setup. So audio and lighting are very important. But
It's critical. So you were talking about shopping, and this is another part of America changing. One of the things I envy about European culture, particularly the French, that they protect their regional stuff. Like they protect their butter, they protect their cheese.
Yes.
It's all regional, and it's a very important part of their culture. And we don't have that here, really.
no.
But we have moved into, what you eat eats mentality. Not just you are what you eat,
Yes.
but you are what you eat eats.
Yes. Whatever the animal is eating,
Right.
you're
so
eating.
is organic and biodynamic something that you gravitate towards?
So
beef culture, because he talks about your.
yes, that's interesting. I am an avid bow hunter.
Yeah, right. Bow
I
hunting.
am.
I'm like, I didn't.
For me, harvesting my own food is really what I like to feed my family. So, and doing it in the way that I do it. I mean, I talk to a lot of anti-hunters, right?
Yeah. Right.
And many anti-hunters, oh, you're killing animals and this, and like if you eat meat and you have a problem with killing an animal to eat the meat,
Yes.
it doesn't make sense to
No.
me.
You're
But
right.
every anti-hunter I've talked to, by the end of the conversation, it always ends with, well, we can appreciate what you do. I just don't like the other guys. Because it happens all the time. But I train. I'm an avid bow hunter. Archery is part of my life.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yes.
Always have an arrow in, and I shoot my bow every day to make sure that when I'm killing an animal, it's in the most humane way possible. One arrow, you're out there. It's very primitive. You versus them. You have to get close. You can't pluck them off from 200-300 yards. And then I do every step of the way. So
Wow.
I field dress it, I bring it, I skin it, I butcher it,
Wow.
I pack it, freeze it, cook it, I feed my family with it.
Wow.
So people say from field to plate. I like to say from field to toilet.
That's the whole cycle.
I do the whole thing.
It's like this.
So like
Well, Lion
literally this is it's a passion for me, and I honor the animals as best as possible. I constantly talk about them. I do mount my animals.
Yeah.
And people always like, oh, when you're mounting them, it's a thing. I said, no, it's a way to honor the animal, because when I feed my kids the food and like I point to the deer or the elk or whatever it is, I go, it took 7 days to get that animal. It wasn't like we walked up side of the road and just shot it. 7 days of hiking, 10 to 15 miles. We finally got an animal. Now we used every single part of it. I mean, I used the bones for stock. One of the deer, I've took the femur bone and had it turned into a knife. I literally use every part of it.
Wow.
And I know what that animal has been eating. I know what my kids are eating now. And I also like to pair, the food that they are eating with the meat. So like, let's say we go to sage country and the deer are all eating sage. I like to cook some sage in
How interesting.
with the meat.
Yeah.
And it's not like it comes out of the meat, but there's different highlights. Like if you do a whitetail deer that doesn't really eat sage, they're feeding on berries and stuff, you put sage in it, it doesn't hit like a mule deer that eats sage.
That would be that would make sense, because it's just like the Iberian pigs when they eat the
Exactly.
acorns.
Exactly.
You get that character.
Fatty, you get the character from
Yeah.
it. We can't eat acorns, but
Yeah.
you get that the nuts.
And that actually, your description just then makes it so much more. I don't want to say romantic is not the right word, because when my first career was selling copiers, I used to sell in Vernon,
No way.
and so you'd go to these lunch places and you'd watch the cows coming off the truck,
Yeah.
and by the time they got to the end of the chute, they'd been killed.
Over there by the Hoffy plant.
But how could yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Calcan dog food was there, all over there, right?
Yeah.
Farmer John.
Yeah.
But the point being, you're right. If you're doing it that way, how can somebody who eats meat or fish or anything object to that?
You can't.
compared to what the alternative is.
And that's the conversation I have. Like, I am not a trophy hunter.
Yeah.
I am after the meat, and I honestly don't really care if they have huge antlers or they don't. I mean, it's obviously it's cooler if they do have big antlers, but it doesn't really
Right.
matter to me.
Right.
I'm literally after the meat, and I have 4 freezers. I fill them up. When it comes to beef, I like to buy. I split a cow with a friend of mine.
Right. I don't want to do that
So
too.
I do a half cow. My buddy does a half cow. It's grass fed, grass finished, and it's about 400 pounds of meat or so. We have a freezer dedicated to that. And that's where the majority of our protein comes from. So I know exactly what that animal is eating. Now, does that mean I don't go to the grocery store? Sure.
Of course.
I go to the grocery store and I make a bunch of videos from things I buy at the grocery store, a lot because I just want people to get out there and cook.
Right.
And if I make it accessible, like I go, oh, now you grab this elk loin. Somebody's be like, I don't have an elk loin. I'm not going to cook what this guy made.
So this is fascinating. You've touched on a lot of things, because I've been looking to split a cow with
Yes.
some friends, and I don't know which farm to go to. And then the grass-fed meats I've purchased from like Restaurant Depot, which is really gamey.
Yeah.
And I don't think it has to be that way.
So it's grass-fed, grass-finished definitely has more of an earthiness.
Yes.
Now, so I have a big problem with the word gamey. All of my friends know this. Everybody uses the word gamey. I think the word gamey describes something that's not common, not your standard beef, chicken, pork that's grain-fed, grain-finished, right? You can't describe the taste of a quail the same way you can describe the taste of lamb, or the same way you can describe deer.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right? Somebody eats it, they go, oh, it's gamey. And I go, what is it that you're tasting? You're actually tasting the earth. You're actually tasting what that animal ate. And the typical chicken, beef, and pork, those flavors are super bland, right? So it's not, or they're just more common to your palate, where you go, this is gamey. Like wild boar.
That would be right.
Wild boar does not taste like elk.
No.
But I'll give you a wild boar chop, and somebody will be like, oh, it's kind of gamey.
Yeah.
And then I'll give you a lamb chop.
I get that.
So I think it's hard to describe all of the game meat with one word. Most people they're talking about that irony type of taste, but it's not that. I mean, some game has.
Well, it's the same problem with wine. I mean, let's face it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not, I don't say educated, but if you haven't, your palate hasn't been refined enough to describe those characters.
You just pick one word.
You're going to pick the word.
Yeah.
And I often will demonstrate that by showing someone, let's say two wines, let's say two Cabernets from the same vineyard, same winemaker, same vintage.
Yes.
But different parts of the vineyard or different vineyard plots. And I'll say, are they different?
Yeah.
And they'll say, yes. I said, tell me the difference. And they can't.
They can't.
It's one word, or strong or light,
it's
or
sharp.
Yeah. So I think it's right. but the game meat's an interesting problem. When I was 8, we went on a camporee at Cub Scouts, and my scoutmaster brought his shot. He shot an elk.
Amazing.
And we ate elk in Mission Bay,
the best meat.
Camping. You know,
the best meat.
But then through when I started this company in 1988 with my father, I started with him in 1988. So the 90s was a huge part of, and now I'm thinking, putting in time reference, it's just right after the evolution of food in America. So we did a lot of wine events where they served game meats.
I love it.
I'm not saying gamey meats, game meats.
Game meat.
And so we did a lot of elk, we did a lot of deer, we did a lot of bear. And
awesome.
It's interesting, and even Parkway Grill used to have a game meat of the week. They don't do it anymore. Is that sort of left our cultural food plate? It makes any sense?
You know, people, I think now, when I say now, in the last 4 or 5 years, are getting back into wild game. And I think there's like a movement now of, you know, high protein carnivore diet, you know, eat wild, eat predators, people will say a lot of different things.
Sure.
And I think people are more inclined to eating it now, but every wild game that you eat from a restaurant or grocery store is farmed. So
yeah, I'm sure.
In the United States, it's illegal to sell wild game. It needs to be certified by the USDA. And the only way something can be certified by the USDA is essentially by farming. There's a couple animals that you can. Axis deer is one. So axis deer from Hawaii is hunted meat, but it's hunted by a certain company, and there's a USDA official on site while they're hunting it. It's wild.
Well, it's like there's a USDA official at the plants when they're butchering a cow.
And then after, so it's the exact. So the killing of it has to be in a certain way. It needs to be processed in a certain way. So other than that, it's all farmed. So like it's farmed elk that is harvested, which honestly is still, to me, better meat than
is there a difference
cow.
Then? This is older information, but I think it's still accurate, where if a prime cow comes in, they've got to butcher the prime cow. They got to get all the prime out, and then the USDA guy says, "Okay, you bring in the choice," and then they butcher the choice, and they separate all that, and then they can bring the select, etc. And same with Angus.
So it's my understanding that when the cow is opened up, then it's graded.
Well, graded, but
so
they can't mix grades though.
They won't know until the cow is opened up. You know what I mean? So you won't know what a cow is.
So they open up So maybe the idea is if they open up a prime cow, that cow is completely butchered and removed before they bring the next one. I'm not sure. This is from the book of the famed restaurant Lutece in New York. Andre Saltner just passed away, but that's where I learned this from. But I also learned in that same book that Angus has its own
category. Yeah. So Angus is itself. That's just it. It's Angus beef. It's not graded with Prime Choice Select.
So what about game meats then?
Game meats are not graded either.
Period.
They're not graded at all. Right. They're just
what they are.
Yeah, they have a USDA stamp. It's almost like fish, but fish isn't USDA, it's FDA.
Yeah. What cracks me up, because we spent a lot of time in Hermosa Beach, and you walk on the pier, and there's a whole list of fish that my brother used to catch when we were kids that you can't eat because they're contaminated.
Honestly, I was just in Hawaii last summer with the kids, and we had this kind of cool space where there was like a barbecue area and stuff. We were like this resort, but we're like, let's just do a barbecue one of the days.
Yeah.
So me and my buddy we went to like this fish market. We try to find a bunch of different ones. We went to this one and we got it was a pound of this and a pound of this. They already filleted. And we're like, let's take a pound of this one. And the guy's like, okay, just remember, don't eat more than 4 ounces and don't feed it to women or children. And I was like,
what?
I don't want that fish. I was like, take that fish back.
That's pretty bizarre.
Yeah. I was like, why? And I was like, he said it's very high levels of mercury.
Yeah, mercury.
The fish was wahoo. And
that's terrible.
I was like, I don't want to eat anything that my kids can't eat or
right. No, that's ridiculous.
Don't feed it to women or children.
That's ridiculous. I got a couple questions about Armenian food I want to
Let's do it.
through. In watching my parents, watch my mother, and as Sandra, my wife, and I work on foods, we try to shorten the cycle for Armenian food, because it seems to me that clearly, Armenians are good about using all of the parts of the animal and processing them. Reminds me of Bukuz's, that fish, that bladder with the chicken in it.
Yeah.
But they're very long cycles to cook these foods. I mean,
yes.
And you'd think these old Armenian women are in Armenia and they got all day to do this stuff.
Exactly.
And they're working it. How do you do that? How do you make it authentic without doing it?
So my theory, and it's the theory, but it's kind of been proven, is that our grandmas and grandpas, and not grandpas, grandmas had all the time in the world to cook these dishes. And that's why it took that long. And using kind of my French techniques and the understanding of food and cuisine on how to cook certain things are just passed on, and they're not folklore, but it's not something that has to be done. I mean, there's certain soups where they're like, you have to stir it only with a wooden spoon, or it's going to break.
That's right.
You know what I mean? There's stuff like that.
That stuff.
None of that stuff actually is true. And not to kind of, I don't want to shit on anybody, but if you're told something by your grandma and then she's like, yeah, that's it, it's fact to you, and then now you tell it to your son and it's or your daughter, and it's fact to them, and then they pass that on, it's fact, and then somebody comes along and is like, actually this isn't true, you're like hurting somebody's soul. It's like their cultural heritage that you're kind of it's like talking about their religion. You know what I mean?
Right, that's true.
But knowing French techniques, I mean, there's dishes like harissa, which people go, you got to cook it for hours.
I know.
Hours. Well, I can do the whole dish start to finish in about 45 minutes.
You're kidding.
Yeah. And I mean,
that's impossible. You nuts if you lost your mind.
And people are like, no way. It's impossible. Araxia from Good Day LA came and we did a couple years back.
Sure.
And we did it on camera, Good Day LA.
Right.
And she's like, this is impossible. My grandma would sit and say, you have to mix and mix and mix. She goes, it tastes just like the way my grandma used to make it. And I go, yeah, because understanding the technique and what it's actually doing, sure, you can cook it for hours, but it's not absolutely necessary.
It's not required.
It's not required. Certain things are more tedious to do, and that's something with Armenian cuisine, like let's say rolling grape leaves. You know what I mean? That's tedious. It'll take you some time,
Yes, right.
But the cooking part of it, it doesn't take that long.
That's a funny story. My wife's uncle, Art, and he passed away a few years ago, but he invented the spoon straw and the flexi straw.
No way.
Yeah, those are his patents, and he's a mechanical genius.
Okay.
But a simple guy.
Awesome.
He's a great guy. And he went to MIT because he came out of the war, and he went on the GI Bill, and he went to MIT. But he invented a sarma rolling machine.
No, so maybe it's the one I've seen. It's like got a lever.
I've never seen it.
Out.
But he had to sit down. His son had Ike's Chicken, which was a zonku sort of type of thing up in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And he had designed a machine that would take a variety of grape leaf sizes. That was the problem. They're not all consistent. It's not
that's
like
the biggest.
Right?
That's the biggest issue.
And roll them. And I thought that was hilarious.
That's awesome.
I know.
Because the ones I've seen, it has to be almost the same exact grape leaf size. Yeah. It takes more time to set up the machine and pull it than to just do it with your hands.
It's funny. You were talking about the process of food and Armenian food, and my wife, fasulia was a huge part of my life growing up. My mom made it, but they used to cook the crap out of it, right? And the beans got like army green, and so she's made this version that's just bright flavors and fresh fruit and crisp beans.
Love it.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
It's with that. There are different techniques that people use. Like my grandma used to do this a lot. Like take the meat and then just boil the meat for a long time, and once the meat was done boiled, then she'd put everything kind of together.
Right.
I mean, proper cooking, not proper. I don't want to say proper, so that's the wrong word.
A cooking method.
French cooking techniques tell us that adding the mirepoix or the sofrito, whatever language you want to say, to the onions and garlic and all the good stuff into the cooking liquid will enhance the liquid and it'll implement flavor into the beef.
Right.
So we're using those techniques, and then cooking the beef with all that other stuff, and at the end throwing in your green beans, or at the end throwing in your okra. Then you're gonna yield this delicious, crispy, bright, like you said.
Yeah,
it's adding those techniques. Yeah,
more farm to table.
Exactly.
So that leads me to the next point, which is I have not had, though I'm going to, Middle Eastern fusion food. That seems to be a very difficult culture of food to contemporize and either add a French character to it or an Italian character to it or whatever fusion you're trying to do. It seems to be very difficult. Or have, like, if you go down to Glendale Boulevard, if you go down to Brand Boulevard, you're going to go to the Carousel, you're going to go to all those places, and it's all the same stuff.
Yeah.
You go to Rafi's, the same stuff. Everything's the same.
Yeah.
Just like going to Armenia, like 2007, when everybody was kebab and vegetables. That's all you could get.
Yeah.
Is it a difficult cuisine to modernize?
No, it's not. The trouble is, nobody wants to accept it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to accept it being modern.
Interesting.
And people are like, no, stick to the classic. And I get this a lot in my profile.
I'm sure you do.
This is awful. My grandma's rolling in her grave. Stick to the no, thank you. I'll stick to the classic way.
That's funny.
Traditional method is the best way to do it. But there is a handful of people that are really looking to modernize it, and they're excited about hacks and techniques, and the implementation of different cultures. And I think for me, that makes things exciting. I mean, making lula kebab, but instead of beef, I've done it with al pastor. So pork.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, one of my favorite.
The best, right?
Yeah. One of my
now,
favorites.
something like that, traditionally serve it on some lavash with some other stuff, put some jalapenos on there. I love Mexican food. I love Japanese food. I love mixing in different seasoning, spices, and flavors from these cultures into ours and creating something new, something fun.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, because wine's the same way. And wine's in a very tough spot right now because the Gen Zs aren't really drinking that much. Millennials, they never figured them out. Though my daughters are very well versed in wine, obviously, because we did it every day in our house, but still, they still appreciate it. And now it sounds like palates are changing, as they always have, and to contemporize takes thought, it takes interest. And now you happen to be part of the Armenian culture, the Egyptian culture, that you're focused on that. Is there wine in your?
So I drink a lot of wine. Wine is it's crazy because my wife used to hate wine, and
We wouldn't get along then.
yeah, but now she loves wine, and I used to do wine in the winter and whiskey in the summer.
Huh.
And then I used to do tequila in the summer, whiskey in the winter,
Yeah.
with wine occasionally.
Yeah.
And now lately in the past 5 years, we're just drinking wine all the time.
Yeah.
So at
Good.
home, regular occurrence. We're a couple people, one bottle, two
Sure.
bottles, depends on how we're feeling. We're regular wine drinkers.
And
what's our go-to?
Well, because it evolves like food,
yes.
right? My palate's changed incredibly over
Yes.
the last 40 years. But what is the current go-to?
So we drink cabs from Paso.
Really? Boy, big giant wines, huh?
That's like our go-to daily drink.
Like Kiami, like the Armenian guy. There's an Armenian.
No.
A lot of Armenians in Paso make
A
wine.
lot of Armenians out
Yeah.
there. A lot of Armenians. I mean, honestly, we have this thing where anything from Paso that's a cab is going to be good.
Wow.
And now there are ones that aren't good,
Right.
but we
Well,
have our go-tos, and my wife doesn't like white wines. She doesn't like rosés.
my wife's going to get along with your wife.
She likes cabs. She likes merlots. She's not a big fan of pinots.
Yeah. Well,
I like pinots. I like everything pretty much.
well, they say all enophiles
Yes,
end up in Burgundy
that's right. Exactly.
at like $500 a bottle. I have to tell you a funny story. This office was down the road at the train station, and we sold the property to an Armenian developer, and he didn't really want the project, but it was COVID. He needed the work. He had his own crew, blah blah blah, and I promised him that if he closed, when we got close to that date, I said, I'm going to give you 2 bottles of DRC, Domaine Romani Conti, Lavash,
Nice.
which I was only
Nice.
offered to buy a bottle like 4 times in my whole career.
Wow.
Because we were not in that category of wine sales. We sold $20 wine.
Yeah.
But the 3 times they offered me to pay $3,000 for the bottle,
Jesus.
I took it. And
That's
they sat in my cellar.
Wow.
And we closed on the deal. This is a big deal. It's like
Yeah.
He built 250 apartments.
Wow.
And he was there the next day. He came here. He goes, "Where's my wine?"
No way.
And I said, I looked at him. He goes, "What? You think I did this for the money?" And we had lunch the other day. This is 4 or 5 years ago. He goes, "Yeah, I only did that deal because you were going to give me those 2 bottles."
Wow.
I'm like, wow, how powerful is that?
Wow.
But there's 2 things that came up in this that you just said. One was Araxi tasting her herisa and going, "This is like my grandmother's."
Yeah.
And there's something about food and wine that are very synergistic in that memory bank
Yes.
of what you tasted. Who knows? It could be 50 years ago. And you taste it again.
Yes.
And you can go, "Oh my gosh."
It brings you back.
Yeah.
It brings you back.
Completely.
There's a smell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And this happened to me in Paris not that long ago. Somebody brought me a quiche, and it was my mom's quiche.
That's incredible.
And it was I had probably had it 30 years at least from that moment. And my wife's like, "What's wrong with you?" Because my face changed. I
yeah.
said, the smell is.
It brings you back.
Yeah, it brings me back. But the other day, I was at a tasting in L.A., a Bordeaux tasting.
Nice.
And I'm not a dessert wine guy necessarily. I love them, appreciate them. I get them, Chateau Yquem, all of
Yes.
those things. So this was a Barsac, which is Yquem-like.
Okay.
Sauterne-like. It was the most emotional smell
Really?
of a wine I've had in 50 years.
Wow.
I didn't even want to taste it. I put my nose in that glass, and the complexity of the nose and the character that was coming through and the terroir and all the things that go into a glass of wine. And I looked at the presenter. I said, "This is the most emotional glass of wine I've ever tasted." He goes, "Right?" He goes, "I feel this too." And he goes,
Wow.
"Last year wasn't like this, but this year it's like this."
Wow.
Is that happening in food?
You know, I think that comes through with a person's like core memories
Mm-hmm.
and like that. if I give you a dish that you've never tried before, I don't know if you're gonna smell it and be like,
You go, wow, that's crazy.
This is the most incredible thing ever.
Yeah.
I mean, there is that. The smell of onions will kind of do that to anybody.
Yeah.
That's why when you drive by In-N-Out, everyone's like, I'm hungry.
Yeah. That's true.
But I don't know. I mean, the stomach is different, I think, when it comes to that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like a core memory, is something that brings you back to home, brings you back to grandma, brings you back, people at that point will kind of lose it.
My mother wrote a cookbook.
Yeah?
At least 200 recipes.
No way.
We didn't publish it. We just have it loosely.
That's awesome.
And my daughter in Glendora, she was to make my mom's hummus and bring it to whatever we were doing. And I had, we have hummus all the time. You buy it from the store, you make it yourself, whatever. And the second I put that pita chip in there and ate it, I looked at it, and my daughter's name was Lena. I said, Lena, this tastes like my mom.
That's incredible.
Whatever the unique recipe was, it was her recipe. Same with her guacamole.
No way.
Because I used to own an avocado ranch. Her guacamole just tasted like my mom.
That's incredible.
That has to feel good as a chef to know that those kinds of things earmark you.
It does. It's very exciting. And for me, cooking is it like, I love eating, of course, but the reaction that people give is more validating than anything. It's like this, to me, I'm looking for somebody to eat the food more than the finished product.
Yeah.
And that excitement, when someone says it brings you back home, when I make a video and people say, I haven't seen this dish since my grandma made it, thank you for bringing this back to me, that warms my heart.
Wow. Well, I think that's the only way you can get through being a restaurateur. And my daughter's telling me about my daughter, the boulanger, she made sarma for her psychology teacher in high school.
Wow.
Right in Arcadia. And he was a brilliant man, a PhD kind of guy. And I saw him at a softball game that she was playing in, and he was standing in the stands, and we started talking. He goes, I have a lot of kids bring me cookies, whatever. He goes, first of all, no one's ever brought me sarma. And he goes, second, no one's ever presented to me with such glee to do it.
That's great.
And that's really what it takes to do what you do.
That's great. It's giving somebody food in any shape, in any way, form. At the end of the day, we're animals. Yeah. Right?
That's right. Sure.
Everybody, all you're kind of doing, if you actually think about it, is you're walking through life trying to figure out where you're going to eat next. And when you feed somebody, there's this soul-warming sensation.
It is.
And when the food is good, it's even better.
Does it drive you nuts when you don't get to serve it hot? Because it makes you mad.
I'm so I have 4 kids, and like when the food comes off the stove or whatever, I'm like on a time crunch. I still think I'm back in a restaurant. Like, order up.
It should be.
Let's go. Like the food, let's eat it. Come on. Get to the table. Let's go. Like,
table 6.
I hate, not that I hate cold food. I'll eat cold food anytime.
Yeah.
But I hate putting food down on the dinner table and then just watching it wither away. Because to me, it's like, I'm a timing, like my timing is on.
Completely.
So, like I know when this is going to be done and this is going to be done. And it's like I work at a restaurant.
That's what it's for.
So it comes out and I'm staring at it and I'm watching it start to dry out and like pieces of it start to like the mushroom is starting to sag a little bit. Like, come on.
And it's cooking. It's still cooking.
It's still cooking. The steak was medium rare. Now we're pushing to medium. Where I'm losing it, we're gonna go even further.
I wonder if that's a control thing, because when I worked at a beach hut back in the day, and I was in charge of the kitchen, so I made all the food, and I was fastidious about making sure that burger got out there hot, or the barbecue sandwich, and I was making meatloaf and all that stuff at the time. And if they came in my kitchen and messed with me, I was so mad.
Yeah,
like they'd say, "Hurry up, you gotta get that." I'm like, "Hey."
That
one's mustard only. That one's grilled onions and check.
Yes.
I know what to say.
It takes a certain kind of person to do that and to know it. And I think that will define you as a cook and a chef. Some people don't care.
Yeah.
They're like, the food's done. It's already done. It'll sit there. Like, let it sit under a heat lamp. And then like, nobody cares.
Do you think that's rubbing off on your kids?
Yes, but they don't know it yet.
Yeah.
So
no, that'll happen. Yeah.
Later in life, they're gonna realize, and I tell them this all the time. You have no idea. Like, you guys are gonna go out into the world when you guys are like 17, 18, 19. You're gonna be shocked Like the way you guys are eating, the way you guys have been
Yeah.
treated. Like you're gonna go out with your friends and be like, can we just go here? Like I want a tomahawk.
Yeah.
Like your friends are
Like,
like, what? Yeah, Wagyu tomahawks for me.
Because I didn't, we cooked a lot in our house. My mom whenever my mom babysat. So all three of my daughters now are great cooks and very conscientious about what they're cooking, very conscious about where the food comes from. And I'm very proud of that because they all just really appreciate the gastronomy of it all and the history of it all and the ancestry of it all.
Yeah.
And the fact that, my mother would be happy that they were doing it. So we're already way past our time.
Oh.
So let's. But I do want to know what's next on the media side. We're going to continue with our social, but is there any shows coming up, things like that you're working on?
So I'm working on a new book.
Lavash was the first book.
Lavash was the first book. We're in the market of pitching the new book. The cookbook market is kind of like crazy right now.
Yeah.
It's a lot of it has to do with your numbers. Some publishers are like hard no, and I don't want to self-publish, so getting the publishing deal is super important for us. But that's in the scope. Other than that, there are no TV projects in the space at this exact moment, but YouTube is pretty much my main focus at this moment. So I haven't been pushing YouTube for a long time, and now creating full-length, kind of longer episodes of things. I just did this 5 food spots in Glendale video, and it did really well.
I saw that one.
Yeah, so it's doing really well. I just did
like 46,000 views.
Yeah. And then I just did 5 burger spots in LA.
Oh, wow.
And I'm shooting another one on Wednesday. But my numbers, since I started, like everything, you just got to work at it. My numbers, as soon as I started focusing on it, have like rocketed.
Yeah.
So I have, I think, like 15,000 subs right now.
Oh, that's great.
But like 8,000 of them came in the last 30 days.
Wow.
So it's really just kind of moving. I've started just putting a lot of energy into it. And my dream would be to have my own show. And I think utilizing YouTube.
That is the methodology.
Exactly. And it can get picked up from there.
Yeah. You don't go into a production company anymore and say, I want to have this idea and then show me the pit. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I've had multiple interviews with Food Network. They've reached out and they've told me it's all about a competition show. Oh, I did a competition show that should be airing in July. So that's coming out. There's so much there's so many things that happen at once. I
look forward to watching your career. I look forward to trying these rubs tonight.
Yes.
Because they're just fascinating.
Yes.
And just thanks for coming out and saying hi and having a chance to talk about it. I hope we can do it again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Sure, we're going to cross paths. A little egotistical.
I like it.
Cheers.
Cheers.